Welcome everybody back for another episode of the Scotland Stoics. Our guest today is Jonas Salzgaber, who is an author of numerous Stoic articles, a blog and a successful books. He's also the founder of NJ Life Hacks, which will be discussed later in the programme. So welcome, Jonas. How are you?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. I'm doing pretty well today. Thank you.
Had a good day. What have you been doing today?
I've done a lot of reading, and I chatted with a girl from Holland, and yeah, I had good lunch and good dinner.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I've still to get my dinner. Looking forward to it, mate. Looking forward to it. I did a run there, so my belly's rumbling, but we'll get this done first because this is more important than my belly. So thanks and good to see you, man. I'm going to start off with what we do in the Scotland Stoic podcast, and I'll try and speak a little bit slower, Jonas, because I know you're from Switzerland, which you're going to discuss in a minute, and I'm from Scotland. And I says to you just before we came on the programme that your English is probably better than mine because I'm from Scotland, and our grasp of the English language is not always the best. And especially mine, Colin, as you know, from where I'm from, just outside Glasgow.
Yep.
So I'll try and speak slow just to get so you can understand me, Jonas, okay?
A good idea for me as well, Bob, if you speak slowly for me too.
Exactly, mate, exactly. So, Jonas, I'd like to, what we do in this podcast, which is a little bit different from other podcasts, is we want to get to know our guests before we start talking about philosophy. So, the question I'm going to ask you first, Jonas, is can you tell us where you're from and what was it like your relationship with your brother growing up? Because obviously your brother being Nellis that we'll talk about later. But can you tell us a wee bit about what it was like growing up together and where you came from?
So I'm still living where I grew up in Thun. It's this close city in Switzerland, close to Bern, which is the capital city. And yeah, I'm just living 5 minutes away from where I grew up. And I grew up with Niels, but we are actually 4 brothers. So we're the middle two, and well, yeah, we've always had a good relationship, you know, the 2 of us, but actually all 4 of us. It was a privilege, you know, growing up with 4 brothers or 3 brothers. We're the 4, and you know, we did a lot of sports and stuff, and we were always enough, you know, to play together. And of course there were fights, but you know, like with all children, but we still have a really good relationship in our family, you know, also with our parents, and we still meet each other, very often, and we spend a good time together. So it was fantastic growing up with my brothers, and now I've been living with Niels for 5 years. So obviously now we got to know each other even better, and you know, it's good growing up together and still learning from each other and spending time with each other.
Yeah, good stuff. Can you repeat again? What was the town? What's the town you're from? What's the name of the town?
Thun. It's Thun.
Oh,
it's
Thun.
Thun in Switzerland.
What's the population? Is it a big town?
45,000.
Yeah, it's quite big, yeah. And what type of town is it? Is it quite a busy one? Is it cosmopolitan? Is it very mixed?
I would say it's rather relaxed town. We've got the mountains all around the city. We've got the mountains, and we've got a lake and the river. It's beautiful, actually. Yeah, it's so good living here, and we're just 5 minutes from the lake, so we go there on a regular basis, at least in summer, and we go there for a swim and having a good time swimming and playing ball and stuff. Yeah,
we've got plenty of nice lakes where we stay, but from Scotland we call them lochs. You know, it's a loch. That's what it's called. That's our name for a lake, but it's just a fancy name for a lake, you know. But we, like in Scotland, we've got lots of nice hills too. So if I ever come and visit you, you can show us your hills, and come over to Scotland, I'll show you ours, okay?
That's good, yeah.
So you were talking about some of the hobbies that you had growing up in Switzerland. What kind of hobbies did you do with your brothers? Did you play football? Did you play hockey? Did you do skiing? What did you do?
Mainly football. So until today, we've played a lot of football, and we still play football together. Now in summer, we just go to the lake and play football, or we meet friends to play football. As kids, we also played, hockey. Just it was outside hockey with floorball sticks, and our dad always joined us. So that's a couple of friends. So we grew up, doing lots of different kind of sports. Also, we played badminton and tennis, and in winter, obviously, here in Switzerland, we went skiing. We have all the best mountains here, and it's perfect for skiing and snowboarding, all kind of winter sports. Yeah, and
sounds great.
I love swimming as well, here in the lake or in the loch.
Yeah, you loch. Yeah, you got it. You need to get loch.
Loch.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Get a Scotsman out you already, mate.
And then actually here in Switzerland, we have this thing called river boating or something like this. So we have this beautiful river here from my hometown in Thun, and we go to the capital city. It's around 3 hours, and you're just on a rubber boat, having a good time, drinking a beer and enjoying, just the fresh air, the water, and being around great people.
Sounds excellent, mate. Sounds really good. Thank you. Colin, you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, before that, yes, a football fan then, Jonas.
I was thinking that, yeah.
Who's your team? Which team do you support?
Well, my home team is FC Thun, and in the Premier League, I support Arsenal.
Oh, okay, Arsenal. Yeah, we're opposite sides of the old firm. Bob and myself, I'm a Rangers fan, and Bob's a Celtic fan. When's the first Old Firm game? Is it next month?
Yeah, 17th of October. So there'll be a wee bit of rivalry, Jonas, between us that day. So.
Yep,
practicing. I think you both have Swiss strikers now.
Yeah. He's doing. Jet is doing good. He's doing really well.
Bob's been practicing some premeditatum malorum, the build up to the big game. Preparation of adversity.
Amore per as Nietzsche says, amore per
Okay, right, Jonas. So we'll start talking about your book in a wee minute. But what was your first introduction to Stoicism?
I thought it was, Ryan Holiday's "The Obstacle is the Way," because he talks. It's based on a Stoic idea from Marcus Aurelius. What stands in the way becomes the way. But actually, I've read Jonathan Haidt's happiness hypothesis many years earlier, but I think it was one of my earliest books I read in English, and I didn't get much out of that book. But I reread it last year, and I learned that he shared something from Epictetus as well. Okay. But then it was really "The Obstacle is the Way" that introduced me to Stoic philosophy, and which got me interested in, this philosophy. And so I decided to dive deeper and learn more and more about this wonderful philosophy.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, that's the first book that they pick up, or one of the first books they pick up is a Ryan Holiday one. So in terms of ancient Stoic authors, who was the first ancient Stoic that you sort of went to after reading The Obstacle is the Way?
Either it was Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, or maybe it was Enchiridion, because it's such a small book. I decided to go with this one first.
Yeah, I was exactly the same. I think I'd gone for, I think it was Bill Irvin's book was the first one that I had read, and then it was Meditations, and I got Meditations and Enchiridion at the same time. I sort of moved between the two. Yeah, good to know.
Yeah, I was Bill Irvine too. That was the first book I read. That was when it kind of opened up for me. But yeah, it was a great book.
Yeah, it's a decent book. A few things that maybe I wasn't so keen on it, but that's for another day.
No, definitely.
So let's talk about your book. So in it you address the misconception that Stoicism is about stiff upper lip, about suppressing your emotions. You use a wolf metaphor to explain Stoicism and emotions. Can you tell our listeners a bit more about that? Because I think it was a really, well, I really liked how you told that, and I know there's a lot of people out there that still think Stoicism is about being like Spock. So tell us about that wolf metaphor that you used.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what people think, that Stoics just suppress their emotions and they have a heart of stone or something. But I thought, when you read these texts, you find that actually the Stoics, they are emotional. Marcus Aurelius, when he writes about his children, I think, many of which died, and he obviously was sad and he didn't want them, to die so early, as no parents probably wants to die, or to see their children die. And so with the emotions, it's just what I get from Stoic philosophy, right? So oftentimes we get impulsive in situations. So, something happens and then we react almost automatically, like bam, and we react. And that's, from our first impression, and we get emotional and we react. And the Stoics, they just try not to go with this automatic reaction, with the emotional reaction. They try to, pause and reflect and, basically ask yourself whether you want to go with that first impression or not. So it's much more about, calming yourself down so you don't need to follow those emotions, but you see the emotions and you acknowledge them, you accept them. This is how I feel right now. And my default reaction would be, I don't know, to hit on the table or something. And then the Stoics try to, more like tame the emotions. So you're no longer a slave to your emotions, but you're taming your emotions, and you get to decide whether you move along or not. And in the book, I wrote about this wolf, emotional wolf, that that comes out and then we act automatically. And these are our, strong, often negative emotions that make us do stuff that we don't really want to do or say. And with practice, we become able, to not listen to that wolf or hear the wolf, but, still doing what we believe is right. So, as you said, it's not about suppressing emotions. It's more about controlling is a strong word, but it's, taming the emotions, that so you hold yourself back a little bit and you're aware of the emotions, but you wait and decide for yourself whether you want to act or not.
Yeah, great. Yeah, like that. you feel that, if you get angry, you feel your fist clenching. You maybe feel your heart racing a wee bit, but you recognise that and you decide, if I follow this course of action, I'm not going to be acting in a virtuous manner. I'm not going to be the best example of myself. I'm not going to be the best dad or the best son or the best teacher in this moment. Let me leave that there. Let me halt that and let me take the right course of action. And then later on, maybe you can go back to that and think, okay, what was the cause of that? what was the issue, and maybe address the underlying thing there. But just being able to recognise that, I think, is one of the most difficult things for a lot of people. But yeah, I really liked how you described the inner wolf, that immensely powerful when you let it loose, uncontrollable. But when you're able to tame it, you hear it growling, but you don't let it drag you away in a different direction. Yeah, great.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely requires, the awareness in the situation. The first step is always to recognize, this. Often it's like an unconscious or subconscious program running within us that we have maybe from childhood or somewhere. And if we can recognize these patterns, as you said, you can go back and ask yourself, okay, in this situation I got angry, and maybe with some distance you can ask yourself, why did you get angry in the first place, or how did you judge the situation in the first place so this anger came up? And with some distance you get to know yourself, basically, and so you get some self-awareness. And the more you know about yourself, I think the better you get at, responding, the way you believe is right.
Yeah.
So it's about self-awareness, getting to know yourself and your subconscious programming. So the next time something similar happens, you already know what you want to look out for and what's the danger here. And yeah, you get to know yourself, and you get better and better with practice, as with everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that for me it's that paying attention to the present moment, being aware. I think that's the difficult aspect, and I think a lot of people might be similar. Right, Bob, you've got a question about the book as well, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. So in the book, Jonas, use the Stoic triangle as a means to explaining Stoicism. Can you expand on both the explanations of what eudaimonia is and arete?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I tried to come up with the visual, image of, or, way to explain Stoic philosophy, just mainly for myself, so I can understand this philosophy, but also, to explain it to others in a simple way. And so you have this triangle, and in the middle you have eudaimonia, and I chose to go with this Greek word. I think most ancient philosophies agreed on this as the goal of life, eudaimonia, which is in Greece like daimon, you want to be good with your highest self, or you want to be good with your soul.
Yeah.
So
inner daemon, isn't it? What demon? It's the opposite of that. It's inner daemon or daimon, and your kind of vital spark, your inner self, isn't it?
Yeah, it's your divine spark.
Divine spark. Yeah.
I think it depends on what makes sense for you, right? For some, it's perfectly fine to talk about the soul. So your soul, your highest self. For some, it's easier to say your best version of yourself. For some, it's the divine potential. I think it doesn't really matter what we use. I think you should use something that works for you and makes sense for you. For me, highest version works fine, but also soul. So that's the goal of life, and it often gets translated as happiness. But that's why I chose to go with the eudaimonia, because happiness is more of a fleeting phenomenon.
Yep, absolutely.
Always up and down.
Yeah, it's a feeling, rather than a purpose,
And there's another translation of eudaimonia, which is to flourish, which I actually prefer much more.
I prefer that one too,
Yeah. And here's, so you have eudaimonia, or flourish. And how do you get there? and that's the goal of life. How do you get there? You get there via arete, and that often gets translated as virtue, but it's basically expressing your best self moment to moment to moment. And for the Stoics, expressing your best self in every moment is enough to get to the good life. And what I find really interesting is that now in positive psychology, there's Martin Seligman, who's a leading researcher and who's the founder of this science. He says exactly the same. He says flourish, and you get to flourish by virtuous behavior. So it's the same thing basically as the Stoics said, and I really like that because it's some proof that Stoicism works, or that there's some truth in it, and for me that's great. And I really enjoy, comparing this ancient wisdom to modern science and seeing that today they're using, the practices are almost the same the Stoics used, 2000 years ago. And I think that's fantastic. And the Stoics would be, proud, maybe not, but they would really enjoy this research, that people now more and more use their strategies, to get to flourish. Yeah. And just to finish the Stoic happiness triangle, so you have eudaimonia at the center as the goal. You want to flourish in life. You get there via arete, by expressing your best self moment to moment to moment. And the Stoics, they used a very simple strategy to make it easier to express your best self. And that's, make the best use of what's in your power and take the rest as it happens.
Yeah.
Or basically, the Stoics said there's things you control and things you don't control. Focus on the things you control. So that would be the second corner of that triangle. The first being arete, the second, focus on the things you control. And these things are enough to flourish in life, according to the Stoics. And this brings us to this third corner, which is we are responsible for the good life, or we are responsible to flourish, because those things are within our control. So I made this third corner, take responsibility, because I think it's an important theme, in Stoic philosophy, this idea that you are able to respond to the situation. So if we look at the word responsibility, responsibility, we are able to respond to whatever we're facing. So we are responsible, to express our best basically and focus on the things we control. So that's, in a nutshell, that Stoic triangle from the book.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. And where I use it in my own life, just reflecting on it, especially on the part about being arete and responsibility and achieving eudaimonia, is by taking responsibility and being the best human being I can be. The Stoics say that we will never be the ideal sage, but try your best to achieve as close to that as you can. And on a daily basis, Jonas, for myself, I try and be a good father to my son. I try and be there for my daughter, stepdaughter. I try and be there for the people who are close round about me. And for myself as well, within my local community, I do a lot of work around addiction issues and just trying to help human beings as a whole, so it makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense. So I thank you for that simple but very, very worthwhile explanation. I think it's very, very good, mate. Thank you. The next question I was going to ask you, right? So
can I just butt in
for
a wee second?
Have you got line on your go, mate? Sorry.
Just on your triangle, I know you've got eudaimonia at the centre. So you're saying like that's what the goal is to get that, or is the goal to achieve arete or achieve excellence, and eudaimonia comes as a result of that, and rather than chasing happiness or flourishing, you're chasing human excellence, and then as a result you get eudaimonia.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
When I've been working, more on other things now, also, related to Stoic philosophy, and I think now I would take arete as well in the center of the triangle, because it's the goal as well, because through arete you will, flourish. So, but because arete alone is enough, it's the goal itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree with you that you could put arete at the center, which is the goal, and then find strategies, that help you express your best self in every moment.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the flourishing for the Stoics is a byproduct from expressing your best self. Yeah, you're right.
Because I think that the Epicureans, it would be the goal, wouldn't it? It would be freedom from passions and pain, and but seeking that eudaimonia. Right, sorry, Bob.
No, that's good. Sorry, Colin. I should have asked you if you wanted any questions anyway. Next up, I've got, right, you stated in your book, Jonas, he says, accept whatever happens to you and make the best of it. Can you expand on this?
Yeah. I probably wrote that a couple of times. It's from Epictetus. There's a quote saying like, make the best use of what's in your power and take the rest as it happens. And I would maybe turn this around. So you have take what happens or accept whatever happens and make the best with it. And because maybe it makes a bit more sense to accept the situation you're facing or the situation you're in or your reality, and then try to make the best of it or with it. And I spoke at Stoicon last October, and there I talked a little bit about this, that you turn this Epictetus quote around and take what happens and make the best with it. And then I said you get like an upward spiral, because life always offers more and more challenges, or challenging situations and also opportunities. So you take reality as it is, try to make the best with it, and then there's another obstacle and you do the same again. You take it as it is, try to make the best with it, and if we really trying our best, we will move upwards over time, and maybe we will fail a couple of times, but still over the years, if we're trying our best, we will move upwards. So we have this upward spiral with this simple strategy to just try to make the best with the given circumstances. And an important part of this is, to face reality as it is, and this, this acceptance can be really tough at times, because reality can be terrible. It can be really sad, and it can be tragic, and it's life. And I mean, I think I've been lucky in my own life, so I didn't really have many tragedies, so I can only speak for myself. But life will always give you, really challenging moments and situations, and acceptance is often far from easy. And so I try to look at things, how we can, how can we accept things easier? And I found helpful practices in Eckhart Tolle's books.
Yeah, good book. Good book. Yeah, Power Now.
And he has these three ideas. So you want to be non-judgmental of what happens. So it sounds easy, but you try not to judge whatever happens. And if you're interested, I'm going to tell you a story in a minute about this, one of my favorite stories. So you want to be non-judgmental, then you want to be non-attached.
Yeah.
And the Stoics speak about this many times, especially Marcus Aurelius, the impermanence of things, everything changes and nothing lasts forever, right? He said something like, today a drop of semen, tomorrow a pile of ash and bones, or something like this.
It's very true.
Yeah. And so I think people forget, that nothing lasts forever, and we are mortal, and our friends or the people we love will die as well. Plus everything we own can be taken away, and things can break and we can lose basically everything we have. We don't really own these things. I think it was Seneca who said that he thinks of everything as borrowed from nature. So we can if you look at it this way, these are all gifts, but not to keep, but only to use for as long as nature has given them to us. And after that, we can return them. So we don't want to be too attached. This is helpful as well when it comes to acceptance. So non-judgmental, non-attached, and the third would be non-resistance to what happens. That's basically acceptance of the situation. And now I'm happy to tell you one of my favorite stories about being non-judgmental.
Please do. We like a story.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of it before. It's the maybe story, and people have told it differently. I like the one told by Alan Watts. I think he was an English author.
Yeah.
And it's the story of the Chinese farmer. So just quickly tell it. So once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer and he lost a horse. It ran away. So all the neighbors came to the farm and said, "Oh, that's terrible, isn't it?" And the farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. Now again, all the neighbors came to the farm and said, "Oh, that's wonderful, isn't it?" And he said, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses and he fell off the horse and broke a leg. And now again, all the neighbors came to the farm and said, "That's terrible, isn't it?" And he said, "Maybe." The next day, conscription officers of the Chinese army came looking for, recruiting young men to the army, and they rejected the farmer's son because he had a broken leg. Now again, all the neighbors came to the farm and said, "That's wonderful, isn't it?" And he said, "Maybe."
Yeah, it's a great story. Really great story.
Yeah, I really like it. It's, we never know whether something is really good or bad because we don't know the future. And sometimes, seeming misfortune will turn out to be actually pretty good. And probably the opposite is also true. So I think we can all have some trust in the universe because we're part of the universe. So we can trust that the universe has our back. I tell myself, I'm part of it, so why would it not have my back? So even if the situation seems really annoying, probably it's gonna turn out pretty well. So for me, that's really helpful, to accept whatever happens. Yeah, even if it's sad, you can acknowledge it's sad, but maybe that something good will come out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I put a small video up this morning on social media, and it was a Marcus Aurelius quote round about pain. And why wish for a life without pain? Because that's impossible. So don't ask for the impossible. And I shared it. And what I related a lot to, some of the most painful experiences in my life, Jonas, was like, I've run marathons. I used to be a Muay Thai fighter. I've had a lot of family pains, with tragedies and that. But some of the experiences turned out to be so beneficial, through pain. Some of the greatest experiences I ever experienced was through pain. So yeah, I agree with you on that. It's all about experience, I think. So thanks for answering. That was a great answer you gave us. Colin, would you like to ask getting on to Jonas relating to that? I think he's away separating his kids.
Yeah.
He did warn us that might happen. What I'll do is I'll move on and I'll ask you another question then, okay, till Colin comes back. You also in the book, I really like this analogy. You says in the book, you use a poker analogy, stating you can win with any hand. Can you explain this? And it's probably similar to the last question because you probably explained it, but just get a wee bit of detail about it, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's classic Stoic philosophy, right? So, in Stoicism, you have good things, you have bad things, and you have indifferent things.
Yeah.
And good and bad come only from your actions or from your thoughts, actions, judgments.
Yeah.
So, and everything else is indifferent. It's it's pretty extreme. So they also have preferred indifference. You'd rather be healthy than sick. You're rich than poor, but still it's indifferent. So again, your actions matter when it comes to good or bad. It's not the situation itself. It's what you do with the given situation. So in poker, you're dealt sometimes a good hand, sometimes a bad hand. You can't really complain, right? I mean, you're not dealing the cards, and even the dealer doesn't know, the cards he's dealing. And I think we can use that, for life. That an admirable player is the player who accepts his hands and tries to play it the best he can play. And maybe over the course of a tournament or over the course of a lifetime, the players who continuously trying to play their hands the best they can will come out on top. So it's not really the hands that matter so much. Probably they do actually, in certain aspects, because we're all privileged. We're here living in Europe, and we have a good life, most of us. Sure, there's tragedies like in your own life, but probably we have more chances here in Switzerland and in Scotland than in some other places. So it's obviously easy to say these things that the cards don't matter so much, but still it's probably partly true, that it depends really what you do with the given situation. And I mean, in the end, it's all we can do, right? Just to try to take the hand we dealt and making the best with it, with our capabilities at the moment. And I like this analogy. I don't know whether it's true. Actually, I'm no expert at poker, so maybe I don't know if the players are all more or less the same strength. Probably the cards make the difference, but maybe in life it's different. It's matters more what we do with the given situation. At least this helps me, to, even if there's an annoying situation, you can focus on the things you control, and that's always what you do with the given situation, and never just complaining about the situation or the cards or whatever won't help you at all, right? So poker analogy. Yeah.
I liked it when you were talking about when you were speaking about the poker analogy. I was actually thinking of the Chinese farmer playing a game of poker. You're like, that's a bad hand. He's like, maybe. Good hand, maybe.
Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
actually, it's right. You know, maybe you have got a 3 and a 2, and the dealer will put 3-2 on the table, and you're gonna win.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
With that bad hand, so maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good way of explaining it. Thank you, Colin. Are you back with us? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You disappeared there. I was asking you a question.
I had to swap headsets. I was still,
is that what it was?
Still here.
I thought you were separating the kids from killing each other.
You might hear them in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all right. I did have a wee point about that last thing. I think Jonas, you mentioned the universe. If you think the universe is, you're part of that universe, I think if you've got that perspective, it certainly helps with accepting what happens, or if you believe in a God or a bigger picture and stuff like that. I think it's much easier to take that message, accept what happens. But if you don't, I think that might be a bit more difficult for people. But I don't know, because I guess I do believe in something bigger, so I wouldn't know what it was like not to sort of take that perspective, just acceptance. So one that maybe some of our listeners might be able to respond to and let us know what their thoughts on that point. Do they find that difficult or not? Accepting things, accept whatever happens to you and make the best yet. Can they do that as easily as someone that believes in something bigger? I don't know. Moving on though, can you tell our listeners a bit more about is the NJ Life Hacks? What is it? How did it come about?
Yeah, so NJ Life Hacks, it's NJ stands for Niels and Jonas. So we started that blog. You know, we started in 2015. We didn't have a clue, you know, what we were doing, and we thought it's a good name, NJ Life Hacks, and so it's still our blog we're writing on. And so we started because I didn't know what to do with my life, basically, and we talked a lot. Niels and I, he was already working or trying to work online, and yeah, we talked for many nights and had some, you know, ideas, and one thing led to another, and we started this blog. And so I first wrote about sleep because I was really interested in sleep, and we both actually interested in biohacking and, you know, improving our energy, because we believe, yeah, the more energy you have, the easier it gets, you know, to do the things you want to do. So we're interested in nutrition, but one thing led to another again, and we read a lot of books, and so, you know, sooner or later I stumbled upon Stoic philosophy, and somehow that became my thing. And it's actually funny, you know, I never planned on writing a book. It was Niels. We were living in Egypt at that time because we thought, hey, if we working online, we can work from anywhere. Why not work on the beach? So yeah, we moved to Egypt, to Sharm el Sheikh, and tried to, you know, burn the boats, if you know the saying, you know, just to leave everything behind and go all in with that online business. And so we moved to Sharm el Sheikh, and yeah, it was Niels who, you know, he urged me, yeah, Jonas, you've written a lot about Stoic philosophy, you've read so many books, and you should write the book. And then I was there with this idea of his, I should write the book. And yeah, it's funny how it turns out. The book it's turned out well, and I'm really grateful it did.
Yeah,
And
it's a number one bestseller. It was a number one bestseller. I was on the Donald Robertson's Stoicism Facebook page last week, and there's been a couple of posts about your book recently, and the first one that went up had over 250 likes and loves on it, which was I thought was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Niels has written a lot about procrastination, for example, on the blog, and in the recent years I mainly wrote about Stoic philosophy, and I plan on continuing, writing about Stoicism, because I think it's such a big topic, and people are interested in the topic, and I'm interested in the topic, and most importantly, for me it's been really helpful, in everyday life. Things get easier, suddenly, the struggles are no struggles anymore. They're just opportunities, and you're glad about them. And yeah, I see the benefits in my own life, and I want to share it with other people. And so we continue writing on that blog and reading good books and writing about them. Just we're always learning and growing, like all of us. And yeah, we don't know what the future holds, but we're glad we're here.
Yeah, we're glad you're here as well. We'll be talking to each other. So, Jonas, is Stoicism a way of life, or is it a life hack, or can it be both?
I'd say it's more of a way of life, it's like a sign, signpost that's guiding you in your life. And when we started that blog, with the life hacks, we didn't really know what life hacks are in English. So we didn't know that these are more, quick fixes and stuff. So we just thought it's a good name. But life hacks aren't really what we're after. We're more, way of life, or life philosophy, and, getting your values together and living, according to your values. So we're not really life hack guys, I would say, but we still have this name, and I think, it's okay. I would say way of life much more than a life hack, because it's not something you can do overnight, or you just do once and it will help you. It needs more than that. It needs commitment, and it needs practice. It's a really practical philosophy, and you can't read a good quote once and it won't change your life. You need to change your behavior over time, and this takes, it takes some effort and willingness to change. And so it's definitely for me a way of life, and it's something to practice on a daily basis, to keep on learning, improving, and reflecting, and then trying to change your behavior, and being clear on your values and what you want to stand for in life, and what's really important for you in life. So you get clear on those things, and you practice the Stoics' wisdom. It's really, they have so much to share, and you cannot read the book and then it will change your life. It takes a lot of effort and practice. But so maybe just one quote will give you an idea of Stoic philosophy, but then it requires a lot more from you than just it's no life hack, I'd say.
Yeah, I think we both agree, Bobby.
Yeah. Jonas, I've got one last question to ask you. So, and you were talking about the practical elements of Stoicism, which I find that are really good to adhere to my kind of way of thinking. In your book, you give 55 practical exercises that you can use as a practicing Stoic. Can you give us one, if you were to give our listeners just one of those exercises, putting you in a spot here, mate, if you were to give our listeners one exercise that they could work on straight away, could you give us it from your 55 that you put in your book? Thank you.
I think for someone willing to change for the better or willing to express their best self, what's probably most helpful is a nightly reflection routine. So I would probably start there. Do a reflection. Yeah, for me, it's the night that works best. So in the evening, ask yourself what went well and maybe what went not so well. You know, what could you do better next time? So just take your time to sit down, take out your journal and the pen, and ask yourself what went well that day. And then you will, over time, become more aware of your actions throughout the day. And so this will improve your moment-to-moment awareness, and you will be able to respond properly, or you will become able to respond the way you believe is right to respond. So I would probably start with the reflection routine, because this improves your awareness. And yeah, it's good to do that in the evening, because it calms you down and gives you, you can look back on the day. So yeah, you can ask yourself basically any questions. You can just journal, and ask yourself what went well and what you could do better. And that's it. That's probably the first practice I'd recommend.
No, I think that's a great answer. I journal quite a lot myself, actually. I do mine's in the morning, but reflecting the day before. But it doesn't matter. Just for me, that's what I do. But I think it's a practice that's very, very beneficial, and it shows you the progression that you're making, especially with practicing Stoicism. So thanks for that, Jonas. Colin, have you got anything to add?
No, I'd agree. That's the thing I'd pick as well. The thing that made the biggest difference for me is that evening reflection. What did I do well? What did I do badly? Did I miss any opportunity to be my best? And it was, for me, it was that last one. Did I miss any opportunity? Because the next day, if I'd see something going on and I'd go, oh, I'll ignore that, and then I'd remember that night, oh no, I should have acted there. And then the next day, I wouldn't make the same mistake. So now I'm constantly going about not missing that opportunity to be the best picking up litter wherever I go and stuff like that. But I think for me that's the one I'd recommend as well, because it has a positive impact, and did in my life anyway. And when I go on that streak of journaling, I notice big improvements in my daily behaviours. Yep.
That's fine. Excellent, thanks, Colin. And Jonas, that was excellent. We've came to the end of the interview, more or less, but there's a couple of things I'd like to ask you just before you go. Could you tell our listeners where they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm not really active on social media, so yeah, they can flick me an email if they feel like sending me an email at jonas@antjelifehacks.com. Or yeah, they can pick up the book anywhere where books are sold, the Little Book of Stoicism, or they can find us on our website or the blog antjelifehacks.com, and they're going to find the email as well there, and they can read a little bit about Niels and me, and yeah, that's it.
And just before you go, can you tell us, if you can, are you working on any current book, or have you got anything coming through in the pipeline?
I've been working on an online course actually, but
Okay.
It's far from ready.
Okay.
But I've come up with a couple of ideas for my next book through that work. So I plan on writing another book, which will be Stoicism plus, I would say, add a bit more to it from what I've learned recently. And but yeah, I don't know how long it's gonna take or whether it's gonna, happen or not. But hopefully.
Yeah, good. When you do
Maybe.
that, we'll get you back on and you can speak about the next book.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, mate. You've been an absolutely fantastic guest. It's been really, really beneficial and worthwhile. I'm sure you agree with that, Colin.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was lovely chatting to you, Jonas.
Yeah. And with the next episode, for everybody, just to let them know, we'll have Clive Wright on. Clive is a recovered addiction specialist, and he'll be talking about how he uses Stoicism to help people with alcoholism and drug addiction. So it'll be really an interesting interview. So stay with us and stay tuned to the next episode. And I'll just thank you once again. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Colin, my good friend. And I'll see you all soon. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Cheerio.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.